this week we're reading Clive Bell, who was an art critic who did a lot of his work around the early part of the 1900s. And he kind of brings together a lot of the different theories of art that we've talked about this term. And he says, yeah, those first two kinds of theories, the representational theories and the emotion theories, those are wrong. Really, Kant had it right. And Bell, in particular, says, look, the deep insight that Kant gives us is that what is unique and important about art is this thing that he calls its significant form. Significant form, arrangements of shapes, colors, lines, that kind of thing. That is what gives rise to particular aesthetic emotions, such as beauty, and that is what makes art so particularly gripping and interesting to us. So Bell makes a distinction between two different sorts of art. On the one hand, we've got descriptive art, and this is the kind of art he says that usually represents or describes of certain sort of scenes. He gives the example of this painting of Paddington Station, the train station, or another painting of the Doctor. And these things they represent a very specific scene. And in doing so, they also tend to evoke certain emotions. When we look at that painting of the Doctor, we think about, oh gosh, the care that the Doctor is giving and the worry of the mother whose child is lying in bed sick, being cared for by the Doctor. And that's what's gripping about that painting, is just the sort of emotion that it gives rise to in us. When we look at something like the train station painting, he points out, yeah, like people like really get into this. They look at all the different groups of people and try and figure out, what their story is, where they're going, what they're trying to do. There's like an interest that we take in trying to figure out what exactly is being represented here. But in the end, Bell says, nah, that's not that interesting. It might be kind of vaguely entertaining, but it doesn't give you the true pleasure that really good art is capable of. And what really good art is capable of doing, Bell thinks, is to give you these sublime or beautiful emotions, these aesthetic emotions that Kant and Schopenhauer were talking about. And Bell agrees with Kant that the way that good art can get you into those aesthetic emotions is through significant form. Not what's being represented or depicted in a picture, not the emotions, the everyday emotions, as Bell says, like sadness or worry or hope, but instead, these arrangements of shapes and figures, they can, well, maybe do something around the lines of what Kant thought, throw your imagination into free play and give you this experience of the beautiful. And so note that Bell then has this theory that we come to call the formalist theory. Namely, that what is interesting when you look at a piece of art and try to understand what's going on in a piece of art is its form. And that's all you need to understand to really figure out what's going on in a piece of art. You don't really need to care about what's being represented in the piece of art, who made the piece of art, what their emotions were, the historical context in which the art was made. None of that is really relevant to the actual form that is, displayed in the art, because it's that form that's going to give rise to the aesthetic emotions, such as beauty. Now, we'll see in coming weeks, a lot of people have pushed back against this sort of formalist idea that both Kant and Bell have, and they give some reasons to think, oh, actually, there's probably no way you can ever really just experience just the form of a piece of art. The form that you experience something as having is always going to be informed by the history of the piece of art, or knowledge about who made it or how they made it. And so that's a theme that we'll explore as we continue to go on through the class, and that you can ask yourself whether you think that the formalists are correct, and that you can judge a piece of art based solely on its form, its arrangements of shapes and colors and lines, or if other things, such as what it depicts, who depicted it, the historical context in which it was made, if those influence whether a piece of art is good or bad, or what is artistically or aesthetically interesting about it.